If I wanted to get as lean as possible by the summer, this is exactly what I would do and how I would do it. And no, it does not involve having to do a load of boring cardio, taking a load of supplements, or eating really bland food. And what I'm also going to cover at the end is the 4 crucial things not to do. But first, let's talk about what I would do. I'd do 10 things and I'd do them in this order. First up, I would set a goal, because getting lean is not setting a goal. It's too vague. We want to be much more precise than that. I want to make it challenging, but I want to make it realistic. So if we say, the time of me posting this, the 17th of May, that summer is about 6 to 8 weeks away, depending on when you define summer starting, that means I can probably lose 15 pounds, which is about 7 kilos, just under 7 kilos, if I was going like really hard. You might be able to lose a little bit more, depending on how much body fat you're holding onto, because the more body fat you're holding onto, the more water weight you can drop in a short period of time. But aside from my weight, I also want to think about how I want to feel, how I want my clothes to fit, and how I want to look. Because those 4 things in combination are going to establish a bit more of a precise goal. And most importantly though, I want to feel comfortable in my own skin. That really is the end goal here. Because lean is too vague. You know, it's a comparison model. If I showed you 2 photos of 2 guys or 2 women and they were both lean, but I said to you, you have to pick who is the leanest one, it's going to be very subjective, isn't it? And also, we do have to remember that just because we're lean, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're happy. Step 2 is coming up with a very good reason as to why you want to get lean. Because what underpins everything I'm going to take you through today is consistency, discipline, and diligence. You don't want to have to rely on motivation when it's a Tuesday and it's dark and it's rainy and you've got a bit of a cold. So that's very important. Step 1 and step 2, establish your goal. And then step 2, think about why you're actually doing this. What's your kind of internal, intrinsic driver? Step number 3 is I'd be focusing on my steps. I would be spending as much time as I possibly can on my feet, preferably outside if possible. The most common trait amongst my clients who lose the most weight the fastest are the ones who have the highest step count. I'd be aiming for 12,000 a day. You're going to benefit from getting the fresh air. You're going to benefit from getting more sunlight. Now we're going into spring. It's going to change your environment. And when you change your environment, you change your perspective. It's going to help your cardiovascular system, and it's going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of your nervous system which is linked to rest, relaxation, and restoration. Step number 4, I need to create a calorie deficit. So to do that, I need to understand what my maintenance calorie number is. So a very rough and ready rudimentary equation to calculate your maintenance calories is to take your body weight in pounds, not in kilograms, in pounds, multiply it by 15. Your maintenance calories is the number of calories that you burn based on 4 physiological factors: your age, your weight, your height, and your sex. That gives us your BMR, which is called your basal metabolic rate, which is the number of calories you burn at rest. We then multiply that by an activity level, which is based on your lifestyle. We take those 4 physiological factors, multiply it by the activity level, and that gives us your maintenance calories, the number of calories that you burn in any given day based on your lifestyle. And then very straightforward, I want to be creating a calorie deficit. So I want to be consuming fewer calories consistently than my maintenance number. Now, normally I'd advise my clients to go for the slow and steady approach, because in most situations, honestly, what is the rush to getting lean? But if the goal is to get as lean as possible by the summer, then I would be going for a bit more of an aggressive calorie deficit. I would probably aim for a 750 calorie deficit per day. So I would take my maintenance calorie number minus 750, and that would be my sort of daily calorie target. But I wouldn't just create this deficit from eating less. I would also do it from moving more. So if anything, what would actually happen is my maintenance calorie number would be going up because my activity has increased. So I'd be focusing on my steps, and obviously we're going to come on to resistance training and working out as well. Because I think if you just go into this and think, right, I'm just going to eat 750 calories less per day, that's a lot, man. Whereas if you were to do 400 calories less from food and 350 or 400 calories more in terms of exercise, in terms of steps, then I think that's going to be a lot more achievable, a lot less taxing, and actually quite enjoyable. Now, how you create your deficit really is up to you. As long as you understand the principle of fat loss, which is creating a caloric deficit, the method or methods that you use are completely down to you, personal preference, lifestyle, job, all of this sort of stuff. A lot of people will do time restricted eating, so intermittent fasting. Some people will do elimination diets, for example, Atkins or paleo or vegan or carnivore. Personally, I just like to go down the omnivorous calorie controlled route. I'm not going to be eliminating any of my macronutrients. I may do intermittent fasting where I don't eat until a certain time of the day because it just controls my appetite. But I'm still going to be eating carbs. I'm still going to be eating protein. I'm still going to be eating fat because those macronutrients all play a very important role in our overall health. Our carbs are our body's preferred source of energy. Our fat primarily supports our immune and endocrine system, which is your hormonal health. And our protein helps us to repair and recover at a cellular level. So your muscles, but also your skin, your hair, your nails, all of this sort of stuff. I'd be paying particular attention to my protein and to my fat because when we put ourselves in a pretty aggressive calorie deficit, that's a substantial change for our brain and body to deal with. And it can be quite immunosuppressive. It can suppress your immune system. So eating a higher fat diet, dietary fat diet, is going to help protect that. But also eating a higher protein diet is going to help those cells to repair and to recover. It's also going to help keep you full. So I'd probably be aiming for about 20 to 25% of my calories coming from protein and about 25 to 30% of my calories coming from fat, with the remainder of that being made up by my carbs. So anything from sort of 40 to 50% depending on what you've decided to do with your protein and your fat. And the last thing I would say on your calories is to not obsess over your daily target. What I would do is calculate your daily recommended calorie number, and then I would multiply that by 7. Now that's going to give you a weekly target to hit. It's going to give you a lot more freedom. It's going to give you a lot more control. It's also going to subconsciously program you to plan your week in advance. So every Sunday night, what I would advise you to do is sit down for 10 minutes and kind of roughly plan out your week. How do your calories look? Which days can you have lower calorie days? It tends to be like the start of the week where there's less pressure, less social occasions, all of this sort of stuff. Things tend to go to plan for most people between like Monday and Wednesday, unless, extenuating circumstances happen. And then Thursday comes around, there's a little bit more temptation. Maybe there's date nights, maybe there's beers with the boys, whatever it might be. And then the weekend, it's a bit of a free-for-all, right? Let's be honest. But if you look at your calories in the context of the week and you treat it like a bank account, right? So imagine you're getting paid every week. Let's say that my daily recommended calorie number is 2,000 calories per day. I multiply that number by 7, that's 14,000 calories. So I'm getting paid 14,000 calories every Monday morning, okay? And I've got until Sunday night to spend those calories. I don't have to spend them all, but I actually kind of want to spend them all because if I don't spend them all, I'm going to be in an even bigger deficit. I'm going to feel worse. But the goal is to not overspend. It's to not go into the overdraft, because if I go into the overdraft, then next week I'm not going to have those full 14,000 calories. It's going to be even harder for me, right? So I would sit there on a Sunday and I'm like, okay, I got 14,000 calories. Well, I know Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't have a lot on. Like work is just, normal days. So I think I'm going to go a bit lower on my calories. So I'm actually, rather than consuming 2,000 a day, I'm going to push it and go for like 1,750, right? And then Thursday, okay, I got a date night on the Thursday with my imaginary girlfriend who doesn't exist. And then on Saturday, I know I'm going out for a few beers with boys and watching the football, as an example. So do you see what I mean? You can kind of start to plan your week in a bit more of a structured way. And I guarantee you do that, it's going to give you a lot more control, a lot more freedom, and it's going to make this whole process feel a lot more effortless. It's actually going to make you feel like you're cheating a little bit, but you're not, because you're still seeing the results. Okay, what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5 is my sleep. I would be making sure my sleep is so dialed in, both the quality and the quantity, but also, actually, I should say, the regularity. So to do this, what I'd be focusing on is a couple of things. First and foremost, my sleep environment. So as much as I can, I'd be making sure that I'm sleeping in a cold room that is dark with the door open. So dark, I don't need to explain that one. I'm pretty sure you will get it. Cold, when our body temperature is lower, we sleep better. And door open is to allow more oxygen to circulate through the room. Rather than you just breathing out carbon dioxide, you're just breathing more of your own carbon dioxide back in. What I also do is put earplugs in to block out any kind of background noise, unless you happen to live in like the woods, which most people don't. And then what I would also be doing is I would be investing in high quality bedding and a bed. Now, this might seem a little bit strange, but let's say at the top end, you went crazy and you spent like £1,000 or $1,000 on like a really good bed, a really good mattress, pillows, linens, all of this stuff. Think about it this way. All of that stuff is going to last you like 5 years. So if you spent £1,000 divided by 5, that's £200 per year, right? You divide that by 365, it's less than £1 per day or per night's sleep. But if you think of the return on investment you're going to get from having a much better quality bed linens, all of this stuff, over a period of time, the return on investment is going to be massive, not just for your health, not just for your physical health, for your mental health. And if your mental health improves, you're far more likely to feel more confident, to be more productive, to get more done, to be more focused, to be a better husband, to be a better wife, to be a better parent, whatever it might be. And you're probably also likely to make more money because you'll be performing better at your job. This honestly is such a good investment, but in the short term, even if you want to get as lean as possible, which is the goal here by the summer, your sleep is going to be so important because your sleep is what kind of regulates your hormone health. And, I think there's a lot more focus and attention put on women's hormonal health than there is men's, but it's just as important, guys. And if we wake up and we're underslept, everything's out of whack. Testosterone levels are low, cortisol levels are high, which is our stress hormone. Our leptin and our ghrelin, our leptin controls our satiety, our ghrelin controls our appetite, are way out of whack. Our ghrelin's too high, we feel hungry. Our leptin's too low, we don't feel full even when we eat. Our melatonin's shot to pieces so we can't get to sleep. You have so many hormones going through your blood all of the time, and sleep is what helps bring all of those into balance. If you're not getting high quality sleep and enough sleep regularly, it's not going to work for you. You're going to be fighting a massive uphill battle. You're going to be going against a tidal wave, to be honest with you. You can have all the motivation in the world. You can have the best goal. You can have the best plan. You can have the best, strongest why, the biggest burning desire, all of this stuff. You'll still give up. Sleep really has to be the cornerstone of this stuff. The other thing I would be doing is implementing what I call the 3-2-1 rule. So very straightforward. 3 hours before I go to bed, I'm going to stop eating. 2 hours before I go to bed, I'm going to stop drinking anything, water. And then 1 hour before bed, I'm going to try and come off of my phone, get away from the blue light. Not just my phone, my laptop, my TV, iPad, whatever it might be, and get away from the blue light. So the justification here, if I stop eating for 3 hours before bed, my body is going to have digested the majority of my food. Digestion is a very metabolic process. Any metabolic process raises your heart rate. If your heart rate is raised, it's very difficult for your body to get into the restorative state that it needs to fall asleep. Drinking water, right? We know if we drink water right before we go to bed, particularly if in your 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s watching this, there's a much higher likelihood you're going to wake up in the night and need to go to the toilet. We want to avoid that. We want to avoid disturbing your sleep. And then last but not least, like I say, the screen time. I appreciate this is the hardest one, but you don't have to do this 7 days a week, but if you can do this 4 or 5 nights a week, particularly during the week where you know you've got to wake up, be focused, be present at work and all this stuff, it's going to help you so much because the blue light in all of these devices, in all these electronics, they stop, or they don't stop, but they hinder the production of melatonin, which is the hormone that helps you to fall asleep. So what we're trying to do here, guys, is focus on our sleep quality and our sleep quantity. The last thing I'm going to say on sleep is trying to make sure that you're waking up and going to bed roughly around the same time every day, within sort of 30 minutes of each other. You'll find a lot of science has been done on this by guys far smarter and more qualified than me. And you'll find that this has a huge effect on just regulating that circadian rhythm. All right, number 6, let's talk about our workouts. So if I want to get as lean as possible by the summer, which is only like 6 to 8 weeks away, I'm obviously going to need to be training, and I'm going to need to be training pretty hard. So I'm going to be hitting the gym at least 4 times a week. I'm going to be doing an upper body, lower body split. So 2 upper body sessions, 2 lower body sessions. The way I'd structure my week is probably like a Monday and a Tuesday, whether you want to start with the lower body or start with the upper. I know you're all going to start with the upper body, but that's fine. So we do Monday, upper body, Tuesday, lower body, Wednesday, rest, Thursday, Friday, repeat Monday and Tuesday. And then you've got Saturday and Sunday to kind of free ball it. Maybe you want to do some cardio. Maybe you just want to get your steps up. Maybe you want to do an extra session. If I was going to do an extra session on the weekend, I'd probably look to do some sort of full body or maybe a HIIT class or, just have a bit of fun with it. Maybe a sport, something like that. And then when it comes to my training itself, I'd be prioritizing compound movements because these give you the best bang for your buck. When you work compound movements, you use multiple muscles and multiple joints. You also tend to use the biggest muscles in your body. So examples of this would be squats, deadlifts, good mornings, bench press, push-ups, pull-ups, overhead press, lat pull downs, cable rows, all the stuff that you can think that works the biggest muscles in your body. If you're going in the gym and just doing crunches and just doing bicep curls and tricep push downs and like, I don't know, like lat raises or something, yeah, of course, it's going to help to build those muscles, but it's really not going to be very beneficial when it comes to burning calories. And if we're trying to get as lean as possible, yeah, we want to be doing the resistance training to kind of build as much muscle as we can, but that's going to be kind of tough when we're in a big calorie deficit. So it's much more about kind of like emphasizing what we've got and maintaining the amount of muscle mass that we've already built. And what we want to be doing here is burning calories. That's the kind of the priority of our training sessions here. Best way to do that, compound movements. What I would also be doing, just to make the sessions a bit more intense, is I'd be doing less sets but higher reps. So like 15 to 20 rep ranges and like 3 sets with shorter rest periods. So, 60 seconds max. It's not quite HIIT training, but it's far away from powerlifting where you're doing like 4 sets in like 20 minutes or something like that. I would also get in the habit of just doing body weight exercises, squats and push-ups first thing in the morning or in work breaks, or kind of just whenever you can. After meals is another good time to do it, and just banging out a few sets here and there. It's literally going to take you less than 2 minutes. It requires absolutely no equipment. Okay, number 7 is cold exposure. We're going down the Wim Hof route. This is a very metabolic process because your body is having to fight against the cold by trying to raise your body temperature. And when you do this, it activates brown fat, which burns calories for heat rather than for energy. If you're brand new to this, I'd recommend you start with cold showers because you're going to find an ice bath pretty damn overwhelming. Count the seconds that you're under the cold shower out loud, get up to like a minute, and then graduate up to an ice bath. Now, an ice bath it's going to be a shock to the system, but trust me when I say this, if you can get in there and just do 30 seconds on your first day, the adrenaline and the endorphins that you're going to feel when you get out of there, I'm actually envious of you if you've never done this before, because like anything, the stimulus starts to wear off once you've done it for a while. You have to like push yourself harder and harder. But the first time you do it, you get out, you feel like you could conquer the world, to be honest. But yeah, hugely beneficial, doesn't take too long, highly recommend it. Okay, number 8 is caffeine. Now, I'm kind of going against some of my normal advice here because I often advise my clients to limit stimulants. The main 4 stimulants being caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, and sugar. Now, I would still limit the other 3, particularly if you are looking to get as lean as possible. Like alcohol is obviously not going to help you. Sugar is obviously not going to help you. But caffeine is a little bit of a super drug when it comes to getting as lean as possible and sticking to strict and pretty extreme calorie deficits like we've talked about with the 750. It's going to suppress your appetite, but it's also going to just get you moving more, right? It's going to get you up. It's going to get you feeling like, I want to do something. You don't want to just sit on the sofa after you've had 2 black coffees, do you? So use caffeine, use it wisely. Don't use it in the afternoon or the evening because we don't want to compromise your sleep. But what I would do is front load your caffeine. So a few cups of coffee or an energy drink or something like that in the morning, just to really get you going, suppress the appetite. It's going to make, if you are going to do some intermittent fasting, caffeine in the morning is going to make it a lot easier as well to stick to that. It's going to make it a lot easier to stick to your calories. It's going to naturally help you to burn more calories because you're going to have the energy to get up and to do stuff. So yeah, I'd recommend caffeine in this occasion. And then 9 and 10, I'm actually going to tie together into one. So 9 is to gather your data. So track your calories, track your protein, track how much water you're drinking, which we haven't talked about, but I've kind of left it out. It would have been the 11th one, is stay hydrated. Track your sleep, track your steps, track your workouts, how much you're lifting, what you're lifting, when you're going. The more data you've got, the more you can measure, the more you can improve. Don't just guess this stuff. Don't think you're above it. Like, even if you've done this before, if you haven't done it for a while, I strongly advise you to just give it a go. Once you get into the habit of tracking your food and tracking your workouts and all this stuff, it really doesn't take too long. At the beginning, like anything, like building any new habit, it's a little bit awkward, it's a little bit long. But once you've been doing it for a couple of weeks, you actually want to do it more. You get that sort of positive reinforcement in your brain because you start to see and, probably more importantly, feel the benefit of it. So number 9, track your data. And then number 10 is track your progress. So weighing yourself, personally, I would weigh myself every single day. Not because I want my weight to be going down every single day, but because I just want to understand the fluctuations. I think this one is going to kind of depend on the relationship that you have with the scales. But I would actually say, like, a lot of people have a genuine like fear of the scales, and exposure therapy is a very good way to get over any kind of fear or phobia. So if you have, I appreciate psychologically it's a challenge, but starting to weigh yourself every single day, even multiple times per day, and some of my clients do this, it will show you how much your weight can fluctuate even when you're in an extreme calorie deficit. But what you will find is you've then got more data points, and over a longer period of time, you're able to see that trend line. And you're able to realize that the weight and the body fat are two very different entities. So track your weight. I would weigh myself every single day. I'd be taking progress photos. I'd probably be taking a progress photo once a week, ideally in the same position, same lighting, same clothes, same time of day. I would also be seeing like how my clothes are fitting as well. Like this one's probably more over the course of like a month or something like that. I'd probably like, I don't know, have a pair of jeans or a shirt or something like that, and I'd put them on like once a month. I know this sounds a little bit weird, but just see how it feels, how it fits. And then last but not least, just register if people comment, if people compliment you. Like when we're in this stuff and we get quite obsessive about it, we kind of switch off from external validation. Like you can have 3 people compliment you in a day, and then at the end of the day, you maybe overconsume on your calories, or something goes wrong, and you start beating yourself up. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Like just be conscious of the good feedback that you're getting from people. So yeah, number 9, number 10, gather your data and track your progress. Now, let's talk about the 4 things that I would not do if I wanted to get as lean as possible by the summer. So number 1 is I would not cut out carbs. As I said earlier, the way I would go about this is having a pretty balanced diet when it comes to my protein, my fat, and my carbs. Carbs are your body's preferred source of energy, guys. If you start to limit them, you are going to experience huge energy crashes. Now, some of you might be watching this and thinking, but hold on a second, I've cut out carbs and I feel great. You are probably relatively new to this. You are probably 2 to 3 weeks in. You will start to find after a while, once you don't have any more glycogen, which is stored glucose, which is stored carbohydrates, basically, your body is going to be crying out for carbs. Now, of course, when it comes to carbs, there are different quality of carbohydrates. We don't really want the refined, the processed food and all this sorts of stuff, but whole foods, good carbohydrates, strongly encourage you to maintain them when you're in this calorie deficit. The people who win at this sort of stuff, the people who are going to do this and get lean before the summer, are the people who are going to listen to this advice, and the people who are going to do so and make it as sustainable and effortless as possible. One of the best ways to do that is not to shirk on your carbs. Trust me. Number 2, do not listen to your body. So what I mean by this is your brain likes something called homeostasis, which means staying the same. When you start to change, when you start to create an environment of change, in other words, putting yourself in a calorie deficit, actively walking more, training harder at the gym, your brain initially is going to fight that because it doesn't like it. Even if you are like an unhealthy person right now, even if you are living in an unhealthy body, your brain has adapted to that. And its priority is to keep you alive. That's its main focus, its main priority. Any change it senses, it's going to fight against, because it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It assumes change is bad. Your brain is very risk averse. Now, the good news is once you've gotten into shape, your brain is then going to adapt to that. So now you're healthy, now you're lean. If you try to eat unhealthy, drink too much alcohol, overconsume on sugary drinks, whatever it might be, stop working out, do less steps, your brain is going to send you signals again that you're not doing what it likes, because you're creating change again. It's now adapted to being healthy, and it wants you to stay that way. And this is why it's so much harder to get in shape than it is to stay in shape. So this is why we don't want to listen to our bodies, because really you're not listening to your body, you're listening to your brain, and your brain wants you to stay the same. And if you want to get as lean as possible, you want to change. You don't want to listen to your brain. Number 3 is not having rest days. This kind of comes back to the overall theme of what I've been talking about in this video, and that is coming up with a plan that is sustainable and that you can adhere to, that you can stick to. If you're going so hard in the gym and training, you've heard me and you've gone, okay, Doug said train 4 days a week. Well, if I train 7 days a week, I'm going to get the results twice as fast. It's a little bit like cutting out the carbs. Yeah, you probably will for 2 weeks, and then you'll give up or you'll get injured and you'll stop. This isn't a 2-week sprint. This is an 8-week marathon. So don't go all in, take rest days. Yeah, you could train 5 days a week, but I really wouldn't be going over that, particularly if you were in a calorie deficit. If you're in a calorie surplus, if you were looking to build muscle and you weren't as fussed about getting lean, you could train 6 days a week. Right now, you're in a calorie deficit. You're also going to be aiming to get in 12,000 steps a day. 4 gym sessions a week, trust me, is going to be more than enough for you. And then last but not least, guys, I feel like this trend has passed, but I just want to say it in case. Don't take any of these ridiculous supplements. These boo teas, they're basically just like laxatives. That's all they are. Supplements are 1% of the equation. Everything we've talked about here is the other 99. I'll be really honest with you. If I look down this list, sleep, massively up there. Obviously, calorie deficit, super important. The steps is going to be a game changer. Like some of the least important stuff is going to be your workouts, the cold exposure, the caffeine. Like, don't take anything ridiculous. Don't think that these sort of supplements that, they come in a shiny box and they got big promises and huge price tags. There's a psychology where if we're paying more for something, we assume it must be more valuable. It couldn't be further from the truth. Look at this. Look at YouTube. All of this information is completely free. Is it worthless? Well, I hope not. So my advice, save your money. Don't get any of these ridiculous supplements. If you are going to get any supplements, the 4 supplement basic stack that I recommend to all of my clients, regardless of their goal, regardless of their sex, regardless of their age, is vitamin D, creatine, omega-3s, and a multivitamin. Now, I've done other videos on that, so I'm not going to go into the detail as to why for those ones. But yeah, other than that, don't buy into any of the other garbage because that's pretty much what it is. Guys, that is what I would do. That's the 10 steps I would do, and that's the 4 things that I would not do. I hope this has been useful. Cheers.